My name is Libby. I am based here in Tampa, Florida, and Patty Mariposa Hernandez is based in Miami, and we collaborate a ton on using tools from different modalities to help people really release stress and trauma and come into a great space here. So I want to welcome everybody here this evening. Patty and I originally met in undergrad for social work. So we were both had this desire to make the world a little bit better, to help people on their path. And Patty originally came into Reiki and was telling me how amazing it is, and certified me as Reiki level 1 10 years ago now, almost 10 years ago to the day. It was, let's say, maybe September 2013 is when we did that. So not to the date, but we continue working together. And I just want to start with a little bit of a meditation. And we use meditation as a tool to help people bridge what might be going on in the mind and fully come into the present moment. This meditation will also introduce a little bit of Reiki. So Patty will be sending Reiki out as I'm guiding the meditation with my words. So here, I'll just invite you to bring yourself into a position where you're easily able to lengthen your spine, maybe using some support from pillows, where your feet can uncross and just settle onto the floor. Might even kick your shoes off if that's possible. Just invite your eyes to close. And if your mind is busy, if you have been jumping from meeting to meeting today, you might envision yourself packing up those thoughts in folders or boxes and just setting them to the side, maybe sweeping your desk clear. And just let yourself come into an awareness in this moment of how your breath feels in your body. Maybe tuning in with the feel of air on your nostrils. You're cool as you breathe in. Warm as you breathe out. Maybe tuning in with the feel of air in your lungs expanding each time you inhale. Softening each time you exhale. And just being aware here of that feel of your feet connected to the ground. You might even be able here to tune in with that sense of gravity. And then connecting with a sense of lengthening upwards through the crown of your head, a sense of the space above you. As you breathe here, just envision that you're pulling energy up from the ground beneath you, down from the sky above you. Just here, as your breath is vibrant in this inner body, so is this energy from above and below. And here, just thinking in your mind what your intention is for joining this evening. One little thing you hope to walk away with, something for yourself or for the people that you work with. And just envision planting that intention here at your heart center. serving here. If there's anything that you need to be more comfortable as we slide into this next hour or so, information. And as you're ready, I'll invite you to open your eyes. And if anything did come to mind that you need, feel free to do that, whether it's get a cup of water or even just shift the position that you're in or the space that you're in. And I know my intention is really just to share these tools, right? These tools are out there. They're super effective, super impactful. We can feel it, right? Just the way we feel in those few moments of meditation is a powerful shift. And that's something that we can offer to the people that we work with. So what Patty and I will be going over today, it's really just the tip of the iceberg. We'll be diving more deeply into all of this in our Usui Reiki Level 1 training, which is in June. And for folks who are able to connect and stay with us for the next hour, we will have some gifts at the end of our webinar today. And so I want to introduce Patty. Patty is my Reiki master, meaning she is the person who shared this lineage of practice with me. She taught me how to do it and continues to support me. And really my best friend. Patty works using holistic tools from social work, from Reiki meditation, so many different holistic tools for healing, but really to help people release trauma and release stress. She's a licensed clinical social worker and just one of the coolest people I know. So Patty, I'll pass it to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Libby. Beautiful meditation. And I hope you all felt a little bit of that Reiki energy. If you felt a little bit of warmth or just like this inner peace, that was Reiki. And we'll talk a little bit more about what that is. Before we get started, I want to share with you my intention. My intention for this webinar, this is the first time I teach it like this in a webinar. I've taught it before live in person, and it just got a lot of really good feedback. So I was like, okay, let's share it out. Let's just keep spreading it. And my intention is that you walk away with more understanding, not only about what Reiki is and be able to define it, because that's still a big struggle for a lot of people. Even my own Reiki students are like, there's just so much. And I'm like, it's okay, we can condense it. But I also want you to understand how trauma is stored in our bodies and what happens when those traumas are not released. And then I'll share how I've been able to use Reiki in my personal life, as well as professionally as a social worker. And I also wear another hat as a coach and energy healer, because social workers, and a lot of us have like multiple hats that we wear, and how it just keeps me grounded when sometimes my stress response does not want to do exactly the opposite. So again, the more tools we have in our toolbox, the more we help ourselves. And when we're good, the people around us can feel good as well. So like I mentioned, within this workshop, we're going to start first with trauma and stress, because trauma is, keeping in mind, it's how you react to something that really shocks your system. And trauma could be just about really anything that disrupts your physiological system. And again, you'll receive this recording, so you can always go back to it. And as I speak, you're welcome to ask any questions by placing them in the chat box, and we'll go over it. But I'll just want to quickly share about like why I got into Reiki, right? As a social workers and just people in general, we always want to talk about our stories, really what got us here. So as Libby mentioned, we met in undergrad in social work. And after I went through social work undergrad, I was like, I love macro work. So I was doing a lot of different things. I went and worked as a wilderness therapist for teenage girls. Oh my God, it kind of took me on. Yeah, that was intense. And then from there, I was like, well, if I could do that, I can go do the Peace Corps, easy. So I went into the Peace Corps, did a lot of public health work there, social work in the community. Again, a lot of it was macro teaching. And it was there that I started to see the impact of trauma on a body. But I didn't understand what that meant. I just noticed a lot of people who were in their 40s and 50s had a lot of similar issues, physical issues, high blood pressure, diabetes, nervios. So if you're Hispanic, you know that's a very common thing to explain anxiety. That's usually their blanket. Tengo nervios. I have, which is like nervous, again, anxiety. That, and it's like, well, how do you have that? Or where does that come from? Oh, just always have it. It's just always there. They wouldn't necessarily talk about depression. They're like, yeah, sometimes I'm sad, but it's okay. Like, I have to keep moving. And so, but these were people who suffered a civil war, who saw family members die before them. They had to leave their homes in fear. And sometimes when they would even recount the stories, because I was always curious, I was like, what happened? They would tell me, and sometimes they would start crying, and then they'd just like brush it away, or they would hyperventilate, and then they'd just like block it. Or one time, or sometimes they would, I had one woman would just faint. And so I was just like, wow, what does this all mean? Because in undergrad, they didn't really talk to us about trauma. So I didn't put two together until I went back to grad school and I got a master's in dual master's in social work and public health. And it was during that time that my sister, my own personal trauma happened when my sister was diagnosed with cancer. Now she opted for alternative care, which at that time I had no idea what the heck she was talking about. I, along with my other family members, thought she was crazy, but I did not voice it. I was just like, okay, tell me what's going on. She talked to me about the chakras. She talked to me about wanting to understand the true reason she got cancer, wanting to deal with her trauma, so much that it really started to open my eyes and ears of like, well, what is this? What's going on? So I attended a few sessions with her. And then, of course, you know, I would go back home and I'm back to New Mexico. She was in Georgia. And I was like, how can I help my sister? I don't know how to help her. And, you know, when you ask that question, spirit comes and answers it. And for me, that answer was Reiki. And Reiki, I learned, was a way that I could help her body to relax. But what what I wanted was, I didn't want her to relax. I wanted her to live. I wanted her to heal. And so that was all my energy. I was like, I'm going to learn everything that I can so she can live, and I'm going to be her healer, right? A lot of us are like, I'm going to be that savior. And well, fast forward, she passed away. So I learned Reiki 1 and I learned it in a way to help her heal. And again, I wasn't sure what that meant. And when she passed away, I walked away from Reiki. I was like, well, this didn't work. She didn't live. So I walked away from it for a good year, and then it came back, because that's all what good techniques do. It came back. I learned it again. And then I got to understand that when somebody passes away, in my case, it wasn't that I didn't do a good enough job. But what I learned is that I did help her heal. I helped her to let go. I helped her to feel safe. And I helped her to connect with the spiritual world that I never knew was possible. And she helped me to see that. So fast forward, I got my master's, Reiki master, in 2013. And what I've learned throughout this time with trauma is that being trauma aware is a different approach, because it helps you to understand when a person comes to you for for support and they're having physical symptoms, those physical symptoms more often is a trauma response. And I want to help you understand what that means. And with all my sessions, I do more than just talk, even though today's a webinar, so I am doing a little bit of talking, but I want you to understand where trauma and how it is held in the body. And so when we come from a trauma-informed approach, you're going to increase your knowledge about trauma and the way we respond to trauma. Some of you probably know this, so it may be repetition. Some of you may not know this, and so I hope, again, you walk away from it. But there's 4 versions or 4 F's of trauma. We know about fight, which is the physical or verbal reaction of aggression, right? When we get mad, we expel outwards. The flight response, where we run away from a situation, duck, procrastinate, all of that is flight. We freeze, where we don't necessarily become ice cubes, but we feel our bodies go into a freeze response. I mean, you've probably seen people freeze when they're talking about their traumas. They just like their eyes might get bigger. They have trouble breathing, or they're breathing through their chest, which is shallow breathing. And that's because their body's like, well, do I run to the problem? Do I run from the problem? I don't know. And it just stays. And the 4th one, is called the fawn response. The fawn response is when we appease to whoever is hurting us. And this could be like our boss, who's constantly yelling at us, and we might be like, okay, yeah, yeah. And then we get smaller and smaller and smaller. Or our spouse, or even our children might be aggressive towards us. So then we back down and just kind of like, okay, let's keep the peace, right? That's in our mind. I'm keeping the peace. I'm being calm. It's going to be okay. But that's a trauma response. So I want to share with you a way for you to understand how our emotions are stored in our bodies. So I'm going to give you a practice, and you don't have to like move around. You can just stay where you are. And then after it, you can just put in the chat your response. But I'd like for you to just close your eyes as you do this, or lower your eyes. And again, this is I'll invite you on a little secret. This is a trauma response invitation, meaning when you ask somebody to close their eyes or look down, you're giving them the option, because people who've encountered a lot of trauma can't close their eyes because they're scared. They feel they're hypervigilant. So when you invite them to look down or find a spot, you're giving them permission to do something different. There's a little freebie there for you. All right. So again, you can go ahead and look down or close your eyes, whatever feels good. I'm going to give you 3 emotions. And what I want you to do, and I'm going to say the names of the emotion, and I want you to think of a story, because that's what we're doing. Just think of a story that matches that emotion. And then I want you to point to where it is in your body. And that's it. You don't have to show us where it is, but it's just more about for your awareness. Okay. So so the emotion is frustration. I want you to think of a moment when you felt frustrated. And I want you to point to where that frustration is in your body. Okay, got it. Now shake it off, let it go. Woo! Moving forward. All right, the second emotion I want to give you is anger. I want you to think of a moment that you felt angry, no matter when it was. Go ahead. Once you got it, point to it. And then go ahead and shake it out. Shake it out. Do a little wiggle on your chair without falling. The third emotion is I want you to think of, or the emotion is happiness. And I want you to think of a moment that you were happy. And I want you to point anywhere in your body to where that feels. Okay, awesome. And then just, I'll let you keep that emotion. So I'm not going to have you shake it out. If you noticed the emotion, and feel free to share in the comments anything that came up for you. But if you notice how quickly we are able to shift from the emotion based on what I invited you to do. With trauma, we don't move that fast. With stress, we don't move that fast because of the stories that we keep going in our mind. What I mean by that is we can have a flow of emotions throughout the day: happiness, frustration, sadness, joy. But then we add a story to it. And then that emotion gets bigger and bigger and bigger because the story becomes then a full-length movie, and we stay in that one emotion. So just something to think about. I'm sure, again, for any of us that are therapists, we notice that in our own clients, but it's important to notice that within ourselves. So other examples of, so that's like negative stress. Positive stress could be hearing that somebody's getting married that we're really excited about, a graduation, a baby shower, right? A phone call, a promotion, a new client. That causes positive stress. Guess what? We still have the same reactions: fight, flight, freeze, fawn. It just doesn't stay as long as the negative responses because our brain isn't equipped to stay in the positive. Our brain is constantly wanting to stay in the negative because it thinks of that. It's preparing us to stay safe. So I share this because a lot of this comes up in the work that we do, and we may also experience it hearing it from those that we work with. Whether you're a therapist, whether you're a nurse, whether you're a teacher, whether you're a parent or a spouse, we hear this coming in. So I wanted to, so I'm going to pass this over back to Libby, where she's going to share a different technique that I talk about, or we talk about in the Reiki 1 class, which is about the chakras. Some of you may know it, some of you may not. So we're going to give you a brief introduction about what the chakras are and how they can relate to what it is where we hold the stress and trauma in our bodies.
Thanks, Patty. My background, really, after college, I went a completely different direction in social work, and I came to yoga, and I've really been studying yoga very deeply for the past 20 some odd years, and currently in the process of becoming a yoga therapist. So using yoga as a tool along with this Reiki, this meditation that we do. And the chakra system is something that we use in Reiki specifically because it's a way to visualize the different energy centers of the body. And Patty's so good with the physical experiences. And I think here it's helpful, again, to close our eyes for a moment and just really connect with the center of your being. So as you close your eyes here, just envisioning your spine on your back body. Connecting with the sensation of reaching down through your tailbone, of extending up through the crown of your head. And envisioning in the very center of your body here, running parallel with your spine, envision just a stream of light. It's directly in the center of your body. And along this stream of light are different points of energy, different points where the energy glows brighter. Whether or not you're familiar with the chakras, just in this moment, envisioning those different points intuitively, sensing where they might be. And as you're ready here, we'll just dive in to learn a little bit more about the chakras. And you'll see I'm sharing my screen, and we're going to be going through each of these one by one. And the reason we talk about these is because no, they're not something that you can see. You're not going to pull out a scalpel and operate on somebody's chakra. But when we learn the system, we're able to relate symptoms that we're seeing exhibited in front of us, whether they be physical, something that the client or your student might be saying that they're dealing with at home. And we have different tools that we can call on based on the different chakra. And then as you learn more about them, it's really fun. You learn how they kind of interact with each other. You can do work on one area and it'll impact another. This is a very brief introduction that we're doing here. If, as I go through this, questions come up, feel free to just go ahead and write them in the chat, and we will address them. Let me see if I can just make this a little smaller. There we go. So these chakras, again, are energy points in the center of the body. I'm going to come back to our first window, and these are essentially the points of energy. We'll be starting at chakra number 1, which is located at the root, the base of the spine. It's called the root chakra. And when we're talking about chakra number 1, we're really speaking about things like security, like safety, fear, financial stuff is hidden in here. And what's really interesting is if you're familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the chakras very much align with that. And so some of this will look familiar to you when you're looking at these emotional, mental issues. Because though we're talking about the chakras in regard to this interconnection between our minds and our bodies, there are physical parts of the body associated with each energetic center. And so with the root chakra, we're looking at legs, feet, knees, the skin. And so physical symptoms might be pain in your feet, your knees, maybe a different pattern of walking that your client has, or if they're having skin issues, bones are also included here. So you can think of root as like the foundation, what makes up the foundation of a human being, and issues here tend to manifest in that way. And moving up, so on our chart here, this is chakra number 2, which is our sacral chakra. This is located in the center of the pelvis. And when we're talking about our second chakra, we're really talking about this idea of creation, right? And when we think about the female human body, obviously this area, the not necessarily pelvis, but the uterus area is where we're kind of growing, creating life, growing children. It's also creating art, creating books. There's something that you're creating and offering to the world. And along with that is a sense of connection. So people who might feel a detachment and inability to connect with others might be exhibiting symptoms of blockage in the sacral chakra. People who might have experienced abuse in this area could be exhibiting symptoms in the sacral chakra, and that could exhibit as physical symptoms. So here we're looking at lower back pain, kidney or liver issues, some gut issues, and reproductive health. All of these are related to physical manifestations of difficulties that are associated with this second chakra. And moving up here, this is our navel chakra, this third chakra that we're talking about. And this is the center of our being, right? And so when you think about the core of the human being, this abdominal area, there's a lot of strength focused here. And this is where people really begin to connect with their sense of willpower. At this stage in a hierarchy of needs, people are starting to understand their ability to impact the world around them. Right. And so self-control comes here, self-esteem rides here. Physical symptoms might be stomach issues, this chakra, because it's so much associated with a sense of will, is really connected with strength. So anything on the muscular level of the body might be associated with the navel chakra. And we're talking about these hand in hand. The emotional can manifest as a physical, the physical can impact the emotional. So this energy goes in both directions, right? Also, chronic fatigue is associated with third chakra issues, middle back pain. And then we come to the center of the chakra. So the 7 chakras, chakra number 4 is the center. When in doubt, we always say this is the chakra to pay attention to, because as we connect with our heart chakra, we're able to impact all 7 really, because this is the union between above and below. Here in our heart is where we hold love and grief. And in Ayurvedic philosophy, which is where the chakra system originally comes from, they believe that heart and lungs are one organ. They don't differentiate heart from lungs. And both heart and lungs hold all of this love, this grief, and this compassion. Sometimes it might show up as resentment or jealousy. Again, here you might see that inability to connect, inability to open up to the world around them. Because these are so related to space in the body, you're kind of thinking of this heart center space. So literally in the heart, so issues with your heart, issues with the lungs, and then also shoulders, arms are associated here. Here's also the largest of our lymph nodes sits here. So issues with the lymphatic or immune system, people constantly getting sick, might want to dig in and do some grief work. Do some work connecting with their own compassion for themselves. This is also a great place to dig in and to notice what kind of messages your clients might be giving to themselves. What's the story that they're consistently repeating in their mind? So often we'll see all of this physical, mental tied up. And so here our throat chakra, so coming right here to the center of the throat. And as would be assumed with the throat, this is an issue of communication. Truth is very much connected with the throat chakra. So somebody who has not been able to speak their truth because of fear might experience some physical symptoms in the throat, like losing their voice, laryngitis, issues with their thyroid. Jaw or mouth are associated right here with our throat chakra. Sometimes we'll notice that we're working with clients who have a very small voice. And that's also very much a symptom of a throat chakra issue. They've learned that, out of fear or for whatever reason, that their voice isn't worth hearing. So they talk very small. They're holding back here, and that's going to come out in physical symptoms. And then moving up again, we have our third eye. So this is this point just between and above the eyebrows, the center of the forehead. This is very much connected with our intuition, our ability to really imagine what the future can be. Patty talked about people who get stuck. Very often stuckness is a symptom of this third eye chakra, of a blockage here. They just literally can't see their way out of how this situation can be different, right? And this is, I talked earlier how the chakras kind of play with each other. The third eye and our third chakra, that navel chakra, very much connected to each other, right? Because we have this opportunity to vision and this opportunity to create with this navel center. So self-manifestation, creation, but what am I going to create if I can't imagine a different life? Physical symptoms here might be insomnia, nightmares, physically headaches happening, eye issues associated with this third eye chakra. And then we have our crown, the very top of the head. And this is actually the only energy center that's not set within the body. The physical crown chakra is said to be just above the crown of your head. This is our connection to higher power. So, and Patty will get into this when she talks more about Reiki in a moment, but Reiki and the chakra system are not aligned with any one religion. So if you're working with somebody, or if you yourself are agnostic, don't believe in a higher power, that's okay. You could say this is our connection to universe, to that which is larger than us as an individual being, just the world around us. But it's this idea that we're able to plug in with an energy that's bigger than us. And this is very much this crown chakra. So connecting with the idea of spiritual love, of peace. Cynicism might be a symptom of a break with the crown chakra, just really not believing in the goodness of other people, being paranoid, just not trusting the world around them. This could show up as nervous system issues, Alzheimer's. So this is our chakra system, and I'll scroll right back up to the beginning where we can see this vision of the person and the lining up of the different points of energy.
Okay, so let me share with you all about, well, what brought you here, right? To learn about Reiki. And as a social worker, I thought this was going to be different. I never knew I would be able to one day bring both of the things that I love most together. And I'll share with you, well, first, what is Reiki? So what Reiki is and how it differs from energy healing, because a lot of people think, oh, well, I'm an energy healer, I'm a Reiki practitioner. No, they're not the same thing. Energy healing, every single person has the capability. And what I mean by that is you have the power to heal yourself. And again, be very mindful of the word healing, because it doesn't mean cure. Healing means to help move the blocked energy so that it can flow through the chakras, meaning move, and then move whatever is just not working. So if you think of the chakras like the veins, right? It carries blood everywhere. Well, we have the meridians that carry the energy throughout our bodies, and they work together. They work simultaneously. One we can see, right? When we cut our finger, we can see the blood come out, but energy we can't always see. And when I say always, some people can see the energy through auras, and some people can't, but we can feel it. So energy healing, for example, whenever you have a headache, for those of you who have your camera, show me, what do you do with your hands when you have a headache? Right. You put your hands on your head. That is your body saying, hey, focus on taking care of this. But then what happens is we start going into story. Oh, I have a headache. I don't have time for a headache. I can't have a headache. This is too painful. Guess what? The more you go into that story, the bigger the energy goes, because where your attention goes, that's where energy goes. But if you stay for a moment and focus on the pain and actually be like, okay, it's fine. What do you need right now? Let's breathe it in, calm it down. You'll notice that the energy or the headache will start to dissipate. Or you might get a sign or a voice or something that tells you, go get something to eat, go get a drink of water, go separate from the computer, right? That's your inner voice or higher self, however you want to look at it, telling you what your problem is. Because guess what? You asked. What's going on? Your body's telling you. With Reiki, it's a Japanese word, which means spiritual healing or universal life healing. So what this means is those who learn Reiki, we connect with the lineage that goes far beyond us. And what that is we connect the moment we receive in the Reiki class, we go through a sacred moment or a sacred meditation called the attunement. In the attunement, the Reiki teacher, which can be done virtual as well as in person, because energy doesn't know time or space. Because remember how I said, okay, think of a moment you felt angry. You went back to a story and it was just like if you were there until I shocked you back out. Or not shocked you, but I told you to get back out of there, right? But you could have stayed in that story and your mind wouldn't know that you're in a webinar. It would be like, oh, I'm back in the story when that moment somebody made me mad or did it, right? Whatever it is that you went. And then your body reacts just like if you were there. So Reiki, like I said, it's a spiritual connection where we invite our guides, whatever your belief is, angels, Reiki masters that have passed on, but an energy, or just even the energy that's around us, to give us the information to help transmit to whoever or whatever it is that needs healing. In Reiki 1, how I teach it, and everybody teaches it differently because it depends on who taught them. And then they just kind of keep replicating it. How I was taught was very like help others, right? That's why I was focusing on helping more my sister. But I didn't know I needed to help myself first. I needed to help my own grieving process so I could show up better for my sister and be more patient and be more compassionate and be more loving, because I was going through my own grief, but I didn't know what that was. So I was so focused on her and I didn't take care of me. And so with Reiki 1, I teach it more on self-care. I'll give you an example. And some of you are Reiki practitioners. Awesome. Even if you've just gone to level 1, what I invite you to do, and even if you don't know Reiki, the next time you start, let's say you're driving. I'm from Miami, so traffic is a big anxiety thing. And I drive a motorcycle. So that raises anxiety just a little bit more when people just come out of nowhere and I'm like, hello, yeah, little motorcycle. Hello, I'm here. And so it raises my anxiety and adrenaline level a lot. So when I can, when I start thinking about it, because I can't let go of the handles, but as a teacher, as a master, I know how to bring that Reiki bubble around me. I don't have to put my hands on me. I can just imagine it and feel the energy, and it starts lowering that anxiety level without moving. I feel it. I know it. I bring in. Now, for those of you who are Reiki 1 or anytime you can, and above, whenever you start feeling that anxiety or any other emotion, right, that the trauma response starting to show up, or if you're working with clients and you're feeling their energy get really intense, just add your hands to wherever it is that you're starting to absorb the energy. With Reiki, you become more sensitive to energy. You start feeling people before you even talk to them. What I mean by that is you can go up to a person you've never met before and feel if they're positive, if they're going to be good, or if you need to get the heck out of there. No questions asked. You don't even question it anymore because you feel and you're trusting, and it's expanding your intuition. So within Reiki 1, you're going to learn how to promote more inner peace anytime, anywhere. Reiki can be done while you're waiting in line, while you're driving, while you're at the doctor's office, while you're working with a client. It doesn't matter. And after learning Reiki 1, you can also share it with other people. Like, it doesn't mean you just have to keep it to yourself. What I mean by that is if somebody has an acute physical pain, you can put your hands over wherever it is they have pain and just be there. and you're going to feel the energy coming out of your hands, and they're going to feel some warmth. They don't have to believe in Reiki. You don't have to believe in Reiki. You're going to feel Reiki no matter what. A lot of my Reiki students, they get busy, life happens, and they forget to use it. And then in the retreats that I lead with Libby, or I lead with another colleague, we always bring Reiki into it. And we do like these Reiki infused meditations and remind them how to bring back the Reiki energy, right? Or coming to these webinars. Another thing that you can do for those of you who are Reiki practitioners, how I use this in my practice is, let's say one of my clients is going through a trauma response. And not that I want to stop them, I want them to go through it, I want them to feel it, but I might invite them. I'll give you an example. One of my clients for the first time started talking about the sexual abuse he was experiencing at a young age. And he was going into the story, and I could see he was getting really, really upset. And his emotions was almost stopping him from being able to talk. So I invited him. I said, because before with some of my clients, I already tell them what Reiki is. And I invite them because they seek me out. They know I'm not a typical therapist or a coach. And so we've talked about Reiki. And so I invite him. I'm like, hey, remember about Reiki? Is it okay if I use some right now while you're feeling what you're feeling? And he's like, yes. I'm like, okay, you go ahead and take that deep breath. Focus in on your breath. Focus on wherever it is that you're feeling that pain. And I'm going to send Reiki to you. And let me know what your experience. And so we are working together as that energy is flowing through. So that's what you'd be learning in Reiki 1 is more about self-care. In other levels, Reiki 2, you learn more about how to work with others and how to expand it. Like I was talking to Tina about how to use the symbols for her physical pain. Because again, sometimes we can go through any kind of trauma in our lives, but it's going to be important that we find the support and using different techniques to help it through, right? And the chakras is one example. Reiki is another tool. Meditation is another tool. And the beautiful thing is Reiki can be used with all of them.